Live from the Raptor Center on the University of Minnesota St. Paul campus, Bell Live Productions presents Raptors Live. Come along on our electronic field trip and see the behind-the-scenes rehabilitation of injured eagles, hawks, falcons, and owls. Watch diagnoses, treatment, and physical therapy as veterinarians and biologists care for these injured birds of prey. You'll have the chance to ask our scientists and researchers questions as they work, and discover the majestic beauty of these magnificent birds as they are released back into nature. It's Raptors Live at the University of Minnesota's Raptors Center. And now, here's your host, Gary Lumpkin.
Well, hi, everybody, all across North America. That's right, my name is Gary Lumpkin, and happy to be a part of Raptors Live, coming to you live right now for the next 90 minutes, a very special live broadcast called, well, Raptors Live, where we were going to talk to you about raptors, birds of prey. It's brought to you by the folks at the Bell Museum here at the University of Minnesota, and we're on the St. Paul campus, and we have got a group of youngsters here from area schools, much like yourself, sitting in your classrooms all over the country to watch this very special broadcast, in which we'll cover a variety of subjects. But I think before we even get into that in any degree, I should talk to you a little bit about how we're able to do this to you, do this program for you to watch, and that is via satellite. You see, we're here in Minnesota at the Raptor Center on the campus of the University of Minnesota, and our signal is beamed up miles up into the sky to a satellite, and it's literally, well, think of it like bounced off of that satellite, and it's back down to you. And then as the other little arrow along the ground shows you, you are also going to be in contact with us, which makes this broadcast even more, well, we think it'll make it even more fun for you, because not only will we be giving you information, but we're going to count on you in your classrooms to ask us questions. We got some problems that we're going to need help with, a variety of things that we'll be working back and forth. So be ready for the phone to ring at any time, and we'll be talking to you, and you can help us with this broadcast. Now, I would like to tell you once again, we have youngsters here from all over the North American continent you're watching right now, and from faraway places. We've asked our youngsters here in the studio to kind of say hi to you, to give you an idea of just how big this broadcast is. So I'm going to pass the microphone down, and they're all going to say hello.
Hello to Worcester, Massachusetts.
All right, Worcester.
Hi, in Wyandotte, Michigan.
Michigan.
Hello, in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
You bet.
Hi, from Osseo, Minnesota.
Okay, to more Minnesota.
Hello, everybody in Aurora, Oregon.
In Oregon.
Hi, in Ritzville, Washington.
In Washington.
Hello to everybody in Craig, Alaska.
In Alaska, cool.
Hello to Fairbound, Minnesota.
Oh, that's the wrong one, yeah. Well, she says hi, too.
Hi to Yuma, Arizona.
Arizona.
Hi to Omaha, Nebraska.
That's right, in Omaha.
Hi to Media, Pennsylvania.
And Pennsylvania. And those are just some of the places where you are out there watching and enjoying this broadcast all over the country. We're looking forward to telling you a lot about, not only about Raptors, but about the Raptor Center, as well as the people who work here. In fact, one of those field scientists, Mark Martell, has joined us out on stage right now with, that's an eagle, right?
That's an eagle. Do you know what kind of eagle this is? You guys know? Sure, go ahead and just say it.
Bald eagle.
Bald eagle, that's
right.
right. You can tell it's a bald eagle. It's got that nice white head and this nice white tail. And I've got it attached here. This eagle's name is Othello, by the way. We give a name to some of the birds we have here, and we call this one Othello.
Now we should point out, of course, obviously this is Raptors Live. An eagle is a raptor.
An eagle is a raptor, you betcha.
What constitutes a bird being a raptor?
Raptors are birds that catch their own food. They all eat meat, so they all catch their food. And the way they do that is they use these pretty large talons that they have. This thing I'm holding right here is a talon, which is attached to this big, strong foot. Raptor is a word that comes from an old Latin word that means to grasp or to grab. And that's literally what they do. They grasp or grab their food, which is why I'm wearing this big, heavy leather glove here on my fist.
Well, joining us right now is another member of the staff here, Public Information Specialist Mary Beth Garrigan. And we've seen the eagle is big, and this is a bird that's, a raptor, excuse me, that's smaller.
That's right. They come in, this smallest size is called a kestrel, an American kestrel, and this is the smallest falcon that you'll find all over North America.
Okay, now we know raptors are because of Mark's definition, and you have an example of a large and small by size. How many different categories, let's put it that way, Mary Beth, are there?
Well, you can break raptors down into about 5 different groups. There's the bald eagle, like we saw Othello, the eagles.
Yes.
And then you have the falcons, which is Casey as a kestrel representative of. We also have another kestrel out here, which is a representative of the falcon group called Kess. She's the female
Right.
kestrel.
So far we've seen eagles and kestrels, or falcons, right?
Another group would be the vultures, and that is the turkey vulture, Nero. So they're another group of raptors.
Oh, he's pretty, isn't he?
And then we also, another group would be the owls. And we have Leanne here, our great horned owl, as the representative.
Okay, so that's the final group?
And the final group would be the hawks. And here's Jamaica, a red-tailed hawk.
All right, so once again, those are our 5 groups, eagles, falcons, hawks, vultures, and owls, okay? Listen, Heather, want to hold a raptor?
Sure.
Okay, well, this is Heather. She was going to volunteer. I'm going to have you go down and join Mary Beth right here.
Okay, Heather.
And show her how, what's the important thing about holding an animal like this?
Okay, when you're holding a bird, you just need to keep your arm very steady. And we'll have Casey here will sit up on your glove. That's called a bait. And you can kind of see, just hold on to those jesses. And there, you can see how light he is. He only weighs about 7 ounces or so. Very light little bird.
Cool. Yeah. How's that feel, Heather?
Neat.
I'm sorry, let me get the microphone set. What do you say there?
Neat.
It is kind of neat, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I tell you. Well, we're going to see more of raptors like this kestrel here, but we want to show you more of what the Raptor Center is all about. So watch this bit of videotape, and you'll get we'll get an idea of the Raptor Center and the work they do here. You see, the Raptor Center is located on the St. Paul campus of the University of Minnesota. Now, the Raptor Center was built 6 years ago, but the program was actually created 20 years ago by 2 veterinarians, Drs. Gary Duke and Patrick Redding. And you're going to meet Dr. Redding and get to see him operate on an injured raptor later in the show. Now, as a part of the University of Minnesota College of Veterinary Medicine, the Raptor Center is known worldwide for treating birds of prey, like the bald eagle and the peregrine falcon, birds who have been injured or have become diseased. Now, the raptors are brought here from literally all over the world for evaluation and treatment, in hopes that someday they'll be able to be released back into their natural environment. And get this, most of them, many of them I should say, do get released. In fact, of the more than 8,000 raptors that have been treated here, nearly 4,000 have been totally rehabilitated and were able to be released back into the wild. Later in the program, you'll get to see how raptors relearn how to fly after being injured, and we'll also show you some exciting releases of hawks and owls and eagles. We're looking at some students here because students come from literally all over the world again to study veterinary medicine here. But it's also open to the public. The Raptor Center is a natural environment, the outdoor area you're looking at here for rehabilitating these birds of prey. And it's a great place to see, well, birds like this up close and personal, to say the least. And let me tell you, seeing a bald eagle or perhaps a great horned owl up close like this, well, it is a definite treat. Now, many of the visitors at the Raptor Centers are members of the Raptor Center Fund. And that's just one of the ways that the Raptor Center gets money to continue its research and education programs. And speaking of education, let me tell you this. Over 80,000 kids and adults see these birds either here at the Raptor Center or they tour in various parts of the area a year. 80,000 people get to see these animals, and it is a definite treat, to be sure. Well, that gives you some idea of what the Raptor Center is all about. I think we're going to talk to someone via phone right now. Do we have a caller or someone from another location?
Okay.
Yep, speak up.
I'm Sarah Brand.
Okay, hi, Sarah.
I am 9 years old.
Where are you from?
St. Paul, Minnesota.
Okay, you're close by. Good. You had a question for us?
Why do you name the birds like you do?
Why do we name the birds? You mean like Othello and Casey and stuff like that? Well, we don't.
Yeah.
Okay, I can give you that answer. You know what? I could probably do it, but let me get Mary Beth and Mark back in our next segment, and we'll talk about naming of the birds because it's one of the things they do. In fact, I have some questions for you, and we will answer your question. We're going to take a short break right now, and we're going to put some questions on the board. And at the schools you're at, I want you to look at those questions. Come up with some answers. Talk about them amongst yourselves. We'll come back, and we'll give you our answers, and we'll see how they compare. And in the meantime, we'll also be working on the answer to your question, Sarah, about why the birds get their name. So watch this, get the ideas of the questions, and we'll be right back with more Raptors Live.
We should have brought Mark to you because we could have just done
on the surface of the water that's running through.
Okay, now that's some questions that we hope you've had a chance to talk about them just a little bit. And of course, we had a question that we're going to give to Mark. And before I toss it to him, let me just tell you exactly the way this procedure is going to work as we watch this program. You know, birds come in here all the time. As we said in the taped piece, literally from all over the world, birds that are injured, perhaps diseased, any number of things, and they come here and they're treated and hopefully released. And we're going to kind of follow that process through. So we have a new bird that has just recently arrived here at the Raptor Center. And we're going to rejoin Mark and Dr. Elizabeth Stone, one of the veterinarians here at the Raptor Center. And they'll take a look and examine this bird for the first time, as well as, Mark, answer our question about naming the birds.
We name the birds because we do have so many birds. We get close to 700 birds here a year. And because of that, we'd get confused if we had to call them bald eagle number 1 or bald eagle number 2. So we give them a name, especially the birds that are kept here for a long time, so that we can keep each bird straight. We know who we're talking about. This bird here is another bald eagle, as you can see, only this is not a bird that we've had here very long. This is a bird that was just sent over here. Elizabeth, when did this one come in?
This morning. This bird just came in this morning. He was found on a highway yesterday.
On a highway? What's he doing on a highway?
Well, he probably was hit by a car. Nobody saw it. But we might be able to tell when we do a physical exam whether that's likely.
Yeah.
So
probably feeding on something on the highway, I would guess.
Yeah, sometimes dead animals on the side of the highway are tasty items for them. So I'm going to examine him. Do you have a good hold of his feet?
I've got his feet.
Okay.
His feet won't get you.
All right, and you're holding his wings so he can't flap out?
He won't get away, and I'll try to control his beak, but that's kind of up to you.
Well, first I'm going to look at his ears. A lot of times when we think there's trauma, they actually will get blood in their ears, and that's an indication of severe head injury. So I'm just going to put a little alcohol in here so I can spread the feathers, and there is an ear right behind the eye. And that looks like a healthy ear.
I don't see any blood on the feathers.
No, I don't see any blood, and I don't see any evidence of parasites or maggots in there either, which we sometimes see.
Now, to give you some idea of what they're talking about, this is a picture of another bird, and you're looking at an ear. It's a little difficult to tell there, but those black spots in the center, those are maggots. And that's something that, indicates a number of problems, of course, with the bird, and that's what they would be looking for. But no maggots, no problem like that in this bird. Is that right?
That's correct. Now I'm going to look at his eyes, and I'm just looking to see whether he's visual. He's looking straight at me, so he seems to have good vision. And I'm using this ophthalmoscope because I can shine the light on the cornea, the front of the eye, make sure he doesn't have any scratches. And then I can actually look to the back of the eye and look at the retina.
Now, to give you some idea of what she would be looking at, what Dr. Stone would be looking at, this is a picture through an ophthalmoscope, okay, looking at the back of an eye. And this particular view, tell us, that looks good, I guess, right?
That's what you're seeing right now. It's a nice clear eye, and we can see all the way back to the retina.
Okay, so once again, this bird doesn't have any problem with its ear or its eye. By the way, if it had a bad problem in its eye, it would look something like this. And we'll show you another picture of another bird that was recently brought in here. And you can see that red color, that's blood in the eye, and would indicate, what might that indicate, blood like that?
If there's blood in the eye, then that often indicates trauma. There's been an impact that has actually caused bleeding of the vessels, a rupture of the vessels. And that's something that we can often treat. Sometimes it actually can cause blindness. But oftentimes we can treat that too.
Okay. But once again, so far on this particular bird, it was stunned, found on the side of the road, nothing in the ears, nothing in the eyes. So the examination will continue with Dr. Stone and Mark. But, this is a great opportunity to talk about eyesight. The old expression, the eyes of an eagle. They talk about what great vision they have. Well, it's really true, and I can give you some idea. I'm going to hold up a chart right here, and you all recognize this, talking to the youngsters here in the audience. It's one of the eye charts like you have when you test your eyes, right? There's always a big E on top that everybody can read, and the letters get smaller. And it's pretty hard to read, right? It's hard to read even from this distance, okay? But as I move further away from our studio audience here and further away from the camera, you can see that, I can still maybe read the E, but there's no way I can read any of these other letters. Well, think of this as an eye chart for eagles, except instead of letters, I'll turn it around. And now you can see some kind of a big animal up here, and if you stare at it really, really close, you might be able to see it's a rabbit, okay? I think some of the kids in the audience are shaking their heads. But down below, once again, no way could you read that, could see what the animal is. Well, an eagle could not only see the rabbit, but he could see what's down below, and that would be bugs. That's right. In fact, from a distance further than you or I could see a rabbit, the eagle could see a bug. All right, and that just gives you some idea of the vision, the binocular vision, just like a pair of binoculars an eagle has that makes them the old expression, the eyes of an eagle. It really makes it true. How are we doing with the exam? Okay, the exam's continued. By the way, I just forgot, we have another thing about vision I want to show you. That's right. And Mary Beth has joined us with an owl.
We have Caleb the owl, and we have another owl on the perch, Aztec, which is a spectacled owl. And not only do owls have great vision capability, but you know, you guys can do something with your eyes that birds cannot do. You can move your eyes around in your sockets, like up and down and around. Well, birds can't. Their eyes are locked into place. And to kind of demonstrate this, we're going to see if these owls will kind of watch each other as we walk around here. And you can, they may take a glance at each other. And you can see that they have, to compensate for those locked-in eyeballs, they have flexible necks.
Okay.
And they have twice as many vertebrae in their necks.
Now, of course, the old rumor is, or the myth, I suppose, is that an owl can turn its head completely in a 360-degree angle. Right now, our owl is a little more interested. There he is. Now he's locked onto you. Now he's moving around. He can go all the way in one direction, almost, and all the way back to almost that same point. So not quite a complete circle.
180 degrees.
Yeah.
Right.
But because he has to do that, because once again, he cannot move his eyes like you or I can. We can move our eyes side to side or up or down. He can't do that. You know, this is a good time as long as we're talking about owls and stuff. The owl sounds, all right? All right, everybody, on 3, tell me the kind of a sound an owl makes. 1, 2, 3. Hoo or hoot, right? Well, that's right, except not exactly, because some owls make a hoo or hooting sound, others do not. And we're going to show you the kind of the variety of just 5 different species. We have some tape. Watch the monitors and watch the your monitor there at the classroom where you're in, and listen to these sounds. Okay, this is a barred owl, and it has a kind of the hoo or the hooting sound that we kind of expect. There it is again. Okay, now you listen to that and compare it to the next owl. No hoo or hooting there. That's the eastern screech owl. And it makes kind of a screech, kind of a warble, a screech, if you will. Yeah, totally different. Now, a third owl, okay, there's a little bit more of the screech owl. Now we'll listen to a third owl, and you'll kind of recognize the sound. That's the real hoo, isn't it? That's the one we've been listening for. That's the great gray owl, all right? But still, it's a little bit different than the barred owl, right? They're not all of the hoos are the same. Here it goes again. And these sounds are very important to the owls in terms of identifying each other. Next up, the great horned owl. Higher pitched, a little faster pace. Much different than the barred owl, than the great gray. A unique, different call. And now this one is the long-eared owl. There's some other sounds going on, but I think you can hear, once again, a totally different sound from the long-eared owl. So once again, we've learned a little bit already. We've learned why the eagle can, in fact, have eagle eyes. We learned that the owls and other raptors can't move their eyes in their sockets. They have to look around. And we also have learned that they make different sounds. We're back with the examination, and what have we discovered so far?
Well, so far I've examined both wings, and the left shoulder is loose, so I suspect it may be dislocated. And that's a very common injury with trauma. I haven't finished my exam, so we may find other things. The other thing I've found is that he has broken a couple of his primary feathers.
Oh, yeah, look here. Okay, there's a gap here where the
right
feathers
here,
should be.
One. And I can tell these are primaries because they're coming off this part of the wing, which is the metacarpus, which is actually this part of our body.
Let me ask you a question. While you examined the eyes and the ears, I also noticed on the beak there a little hole right there. I guess that's the nose, and we asked the students before, can raptors smell?
Well, I'm going to defer to Mark, our field biologist, on that.
There is one raptor that can smell. Most of the raptors cannot smell. They don't have any sense of smell. But the turkey vulture, which we saw before, is the only raptor that can smell. When we can actually bury food in the ground and they'll find it just through the sense of smell.
Okay, so they have kind of a nose, but they can't smell.
Right,
Interesting.
exactly.
Okay, wow.
Exactly.
We'll be answering, like I said, as best we can, those kinds of questions. But you know, if we don't answer a question, certainly write to us here, or they make great discussion in your classrooms, and I'll bet you'll discover the answer yourself. But we will attempt to answer all those questions. In fact, it's a good time now to give you some more questions for you to discuss amongst yourself as we move to another part of the Raptor Center. So take a look at these questions, and we'll be right back with more Raptors Live.
Scattered on the surface of the water that's running through.
Okay, we're back again. There's, once again, questions we hope you have a chance just briefly to discuss, and we're going to get to those too, because now we have seen, well, a bird is brought in, it's examined for the kinds of problems that it may have, and the next thing, well, the bird is kept here probably for a period of time, and it comes every day here to the treatment room. And think of any medical show that you've ever seen on TV. In fact, the new one, ER, and kind of a hubbub of activity. Well, that's exactly what this is. It is probably the busiest place in the entire Raptor Center. We'll move inside now. This is Rehab Director Lori Arndt and one of her techs, Jane Goggin. And you have got a bird here. What's going on, Lori?
Yes, this is a broadwing hawk that has broken some feathers in its cage. So we're going to replace those, actually give him new feathers so he can fly better.
Now, wait a minute. You're going to put feathers from, I guess, from another bird?
That's right. Yep, we have some feathers here that we're going to replace into him.
Okay. Now, we should also point out one thing. As long as we're talking about feathers, I don't know if we can get a shot of this guy's here or not, but the tail feathers here, you've got some kind of a plastic thing. What's that all about?
Yeah, that's just an envelope that we put over the tail so that the tail feathers don't break when the birds are in a cage.
Okay, and that's called?
A tail sheath.
A tail sheath. Okay. So you're going to we're going to come back and see how this goes. And you can see this gap right here, but pretty soon you'll have new feathers there.
You bet.
Okay, well, once again, and I should point out, too, that they use the exact same equipment that you would find in a person, in a human hospital emergency room. In fact, they refer to the birds as patients. I join now Dr. Pat Reddick and his vet assistant, Tony, and you're doing what, Doctor?
Well, we have a golden eagle here that was recovered in Illinois with spinal injuries, probably hit by a car, and we're giving her fluids and vitamins right now by the intravenous route. I'm injecting these fluids right into a vein.
Okay, once again, a regular hypodermic needle and going right into the vein, just as you would administer a human with the same problem.
Exactly so.
And this came from Illinois?
This bird was shipped up here from Illinois last week.
Okay, so once again, birds do in fact arrive here from all over, and this bird's any other treatment going to be done here?
We're going to be doing some examination and physical therapy on its legs in just a minute when we finish with this, try to regain some function there.
Okay, physical therapy. Okay, once again, I don't want to say this too many times, but it's true. Physical therapy, just like you or I might get if we had to, if we sprained a muscle in our back or our knee or something like that. We have another exam going on right now. This is Dr. Jeff Cooney, one of the veterinarians here. His tech, Barb Talbot. I'll ask, let me reach across. Let me go around this way real quickly. Okay, what's going on here?
This is a snowy owl that came from Oakdale, Minnesota, and was knocked out of the sky by some crows, believe it or not. And the people found the bird sitting alongside the road. They actually saw it happen, and during its fall from the sky, it broke its wing right here.
Okay, now we can see kind of where it's. Ooh, that's definite owie right in there, huh?
Mm-hmm. It's a little bit swollen still from the changes in the bone that are occurring under here. And we put a pin into the bone that we call the radius. And this little metal piece right here.
Okay, I don't know if you can see that right there. Actually sticking out, a little piece of metal sticking out right there.
Right. Now, as soon as this is healed, this little pin will be removed.
Okay, we'll have even a better shot of that in just a few minutes. Once again, you notice the bird has the tail sheath on here to protect its tail feathers. You know, one of the great things about coming to the treatment room here is to kind of move around from station to station and see what's going on, because it is definitely there's a lot of activity. Meanwhile, back here, how the implantation of the feathers going?
Going very well. I just have one last feather to put in, and I'll be done.
Now, I should ask you, are some of these the new feathers here?
Yes, and I'm glad you can't tell. It means I'm doing a good job.
Yeah, I couldn't. I thought you were still waiting, but there are some new feathers, and they blend. Other than maybe now I see little pieces of paper here.
Yeah, because I glued those in already.
Glued?
Yep, I use a 5-minute glue. It dries in 5 minutes, so I have a little time to play around with feathers to make sure they're in the right place.
And then how soon will this bird be able to fly?
I'll test it in about 24 hours.
No kidding.
That's right.
Now, we should point out, I don't think we can get one other shot here. We saw the tail sheath at one end of the bird. I see a little kind of a plastic thing, a little hood over the head of the bird. What's happening there?
That's a cone through which a gas anesthetic is being applied. So the bird is breathing in the gas, and that's why he's sleeping right now.
Okay, it's just better for the bird. Just like, once again, like you would anesthetize a human patient.
That's right, to keep him calm while I'm doing this.
Okay. Let's check back with our eagle here from Illinois and see your. Well, this looks like the rehab you talked about.
This is what we're doing right now. And one of the things we're interested in doing is assessing the bird's response to pain as an indication that the nerves are regenerating and regaining their function. And unfortunately, right now, I'm applying a fair amount of pressure with my fingernails to the toes of this bird, and we're not getting any reaction at this stage in the game. That means we've still have nerve deficits from the spinal injury that the bird's sustained.
So what happens when you pinch here, like I'm doing here? What should happen?
I would expect that just like if I pinched you, you'd pull your arm back.
Flinch a little bit.
Flinch a little bit, and this bird is showing absolutely no response whatsoever.
Okay, so this needs some more work, as you can say.
Needs some more work, but we would expect over the course of the next 2 to 3 weeks that, in fact, we would regain the function.
Well, you know, I was going to ask you that you don't have this bird anesthetized, and I can see, well, now that's why, right? Because you're testing things, you need them awake.
That's exactly right.
Okay, I answered my own question. In fact, you may have some questions as they occur to you. By all means, be ready, because we may be calling your school, right? And we'd like you to ask those. Meanwhile, right back in with our owl, what's going on now?
Well, we finished with our examination and our physical therapy, and now we're putting what we call a figure-8 bandage on the wing. And what this will do is give additional support to that fracture while it heals. So this will provide like an external splint, you know, like if you go to the doctor and get a splint on
Sure.
or something like that. That's what this is doing.
Now, you're using a gauze here. Do you ever use casts like you or I might do if we broke a bone?
Sometimes we do, but usually we use padded bandages like this.
Okay, good. Well, we'll let this continue on and just and they'll kind of continue here. We'll check back in with what's going on in the treatment room. You know, one of the other things they do here is, in addition to examine the birds after they've been here for a while, is to examine them for the first time. And as you recall, that's what was happening upstairs. So let's check back in with Dr. Stone and Mark and find out how that examination is going.
Okay, Mark. Well, I think what I'd like to do is give him some fluids.
Okay, he's pretty dehydrated?
Yeah, a little bit.
All
He
right.
probably hasn't eaten for a couple days.
Sitting on that road.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you want me to do?
Would you weigh him for me? Because the amount of fluids I give is going to be dependent on his weight.
Sure.
So let's get that first.
Okay. Everybody in the audience stays real still, because I have to let the eagle go in order to do this. So I lay her on the scale, because I don't want my weight getting in there. And this bird weighs 4 pounds, 8 ounces.
Okay. Well, the dosage of fluids I have is in metric.
Okay.
So we're going to have to convert pounds to the metric system.
All right.
Do you know how to do that?
Not me.
I think I might remember.
Okay.
So let's see. This bird is, you said 4 pounds.
8 ounces.
8 ounces. All right. So I want to know how many kilograms is that?
Mm-hmm.
Because the dose of fluids I want to give is 10 milliliters for every kilogram of weight. So how many milliliters of fluids will that be? Gary, do you think you can figure that out?
Well, I'm not sure I can figure it out with a little bit of help. I know you have written those numbers on the blackboard, and what Dr. Stone has done is given you, I'm talking to you now, our audience all over the country, our classroom audience, a chance to work on this problem. So you have the numbers, you're looking at them on the board, you know what the bird weighs, you know what the amount of fluid per unit of pound a bird should get. Unfortunately, there's this little matter of pounds and kilograms and liters and all those things, kind of a transmetric problem as well. So with those numbers, we would like you to work on that math problem we'll work on it here and we'll compare answers in just a little bit. So you've got the numbers on the blackboard. Work on that problem, and we'll continue on with our examination and more information here. And we'll talk to you later and see how your math answer compares with ours. Because we have now moved with Dr. Reddick here to the X-ray area where, well, once again, just like human patients, you take X-rays.
Well, most of the birds that come in here are traumatized. They've been injured by some means, either being hit by a car, flying into a window, or shot, or something like that. And having a picture of the insides of the bird, which you get with an X-ray, is one of the most important diagnostic tools that we have.
Okay.
We're looking here at an X-ray, or a radiograph, more properly, of a barred owl. And you can see that the skeleton looks very much like any vertebrate skeleton, very much like a human skeleton. We have arm bones here, we have leg bones. You can see the backbone coming down this way. And if you look at the skeleton right here of a snowy owl, you can see the similarities between the bone structure here and what we actually see on the radiograph.
Cool. Okay, great.
There's a very interesting feature about this bird here. Do you see anything that looks, even though you're not familiar with looking at these radiographs per se, is there anything that really strikes your eye?
I think I could spot a broken bone, but no, I don't really see anything. What's special?
Well, take a look at the anatomy of the bird. As you come down here, see this very strange-looking structure right here. Any thoughts on what that?
Okay, once again, a kind of almost a circle right here in the abdomen.
Yeah. Let me tell you, this is a female bird. Does that give you a clue? What'd you have for breakfast?
An egg? Is it really?
Absolutely. This bird was injured while it still had an egg in it, and was admitted to the hospital here with an egg.
So you had no idea until you took a look at the picture.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, well, now that is a bird that is healthy. In fact, a soon-to-be mom barred owl. But, of course, some of the animals that arrive here are, well, their X-rays look quite a bit different. And we're going to show you, well, an example of that right now.
Right. This is a pair of radiographs from a Swainson's hawk that was recently admitted. And this bird has fractures of some of the bones in the wing. Can you see them?
Yeah, now that one I can see. In fact, if we'll get a shot up here real tight up in this bone in the wrist, I guess.
Right.
Instead of a straight line, it's kind of broken there.
Right. You see 3 fragments in there. This bone is actually called the radius, and it's similar to a bone in your forearm. And the fracture would be right here comparably up by your wrist.
Okay.
Now, since the fragments are poorly aligned, that fracture would not heal without some sort of treatment. And in this radiograph, you can see what was done. A stainless steel pin was implanted in the bone to line all the fragments up, just like you saw in the snowy owl over there a few minutes ago with Dr. Cooney.
So once again, this is a new X-ray of the same bird, and that line is actually that steel pin.
Steel pin.
Okay, in there, and that's how it shows up on the X-ray, and that'll come out once it's healed, right?
Right. You can see it's projecting out here at the end of the wing, so we can get a hold of it with an instrument. And that pin needs to stay in there for about 4 to 5 weeks.
4 to 5 weeks. Okay. Now we have one other X-ray to show you, and it'll give you an idea of, once again, probably the most typical type of injury that comes in here. I guess that's fair to say, huh? Or one of the more typical ones.
It's one of the more typical ones, and unfortunately, it's one of the more typical ones because this X-ray is evidence of a direct act of injury and, if you will, violence against a raptor or a bird of prey. You see all these little white dots distributed throughout the body? Those are shotgun pellets. Somebody has shot this bird. And the bird, in fact, has a fracture of the bones of the wrist out here, the metacarpal bones.
Now, will you, obviously you're going to fix this, you'll fix this fracture, but what about these pellets? Do you take them out?
No, we don't, actually. Embedded in the flesh like that, first of all, they don't really cause any serious problem once the bird's recovered from the immediate injury. And secondly, to go in there and try to find each one of those and take it out would cause a lot more damage.
Okay, but the fracture you do fix?
The fracture does need to be repaired, that's correct.
Okay, good. All right, that gives you some idea of the X-ray technology used here. You know, we had a math problem, speaking of technology. How's your mathematics technology out there? Let's check back in with Dr. Stone and Mark and see how the numbers compare.
Okay, well...
1 second, Elizabeth. Let's see. Did somebody have an answer out there?
Yes, I did.
Hi, what's your name?
My name's Nick.
Hello. What answer did you come up with?
We got 20 milliliters.
20 milliliters. Elizabeth?
That's correct.
Good job.
Good job. And let me just show you how I figured that out. 4 pounds and 8 ounces is actually 4.5 pounds because there's 16 ounces in a pound. So 4.5 pounds. And then I didn't give you this information, but there are 2.2 pounds per kilogram. So I rounded off a little bit. 4.5 divided by 2.2, rounded off, is 2 kilograms. So if I'm going to give 10 mils per kilogram, then that's 20 milliliters. Okay, so let's give the fluids.
Okay, we can give the fluids. Good job and getting the number out. Did you guys get it in the audience out there too? Yeah, you all
Good. All right.
Okay.
This is how much 20 milliliters is. And I'm going to give this intravenously, just as Dr. Rettig did. And first I'm going to spread the feathers over where the wing vein is. And sometimes I need to put some alcohol in there. That will help clean it and it'll help me see the vein too.
So that's the vein right under that we're looking at right there.
Right, that bluish area is the vein.
They have really thin skin, don't they?
They do. They have very thin skin, much thinner than other animals. And it's probably one way in which they stay light so that they can fly. Okay, so you've got a good handle on him. He may jump when I give this. All right, so we're in the vein. I got some blood back when I pull, and that's how I know I'm in the vein. And now I'm going to inject the fluids. And this doesn't hurt them. You can see that he's really not moving at all. He's not feeling this, luckily.
Yeah. And this is the only way we can give them fluids. If I was in a hospital, they'd hook me up to one of those drips and do it all day, but eagles aren't going to, I'm not going to sit here and hold him all day, I guess.
Right, and it's stressful to the bird, too, to have them on their back. We like to keep them on the table on their back as short a time as possible because it's very scary for them. Okay, now I'm just holding off where that hole in the vein is so it doesn't have a hematoma.
Right.
And I'll just hold my fingers there for 20 seconds or so. Sometimes we give the fluids under the skin instead of in the vein. And we do that oftentimes if the bird is in good shape and doesn't need the fluids immediately in the bloodstream.
And I've seen that sometimes we also can give them orally. We just go right down into the...
Okay, well, we're back down in the treatment room right now. Thank you very much for your help with the math problem. This is a live broadcast, and I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing, but I heard just enough to know that we did get the right answer. Now the right amount of fluids can be administered to that bird. We're back down here in the Raptor Center. Now, this is the owl that you were working on before. Still a little bit sleepy?
Right. We're just waking up from anesthesia right now, and what the bird is doing now is breathing off that gas that was putting it to sleep and is starting to wake up. You can see the eyes are just barely open, and within a couple of minutes we'll be able to put him back in his cage.
I think we have a question from Massachusetts. Go ahead and tell me your question. First of all, who am I talking to?
Talking to Neil Palmer from Worcester, Massachusetts.
Hi there. How you doing?
Hi.
Good. What's your question?
What happens to the birds that cannot be rehabilitated?
What happens to the birds, and say the last part again?
That cannot be rehabilitated.
Okay. The question is from Massachusetts, what happens to the birds that cannot be rehabilitated?
Well, some of them we try to place with zoos or nature centers that have permits to have them. We have a whole display of birds ourselves that are permanently disabled and we can't release, so we try to go that route.
Okay. Those are the educational birds like Othello?
That's right.
Okay, so there is some use, I suppose, a purpose to their life, even though they can't go back to the wild. Huh?
That's right. It's a little bit different purpose, but it's still an important one.
Okay, and of course, we must point out that unfortunately some of the birds can't be saved. Not every bird can be saved, just like in real life, huh?
That's right.
Okay,
yeah.
but that number is changing rapidly with the onset of technology and the kinds of treatment, because this educational facility is not only a place to learn about birds, but some of the research that has been done here has made a difference, hasn't it?
Oh, it definitely has. We've done a lot of things to learn new ways to help the birds that are injured or sick.
Okay, so from the work that's being done here, even more good things are happening. Yeah. Now we have one other question. I believe this is Debbie from Oregon. Debbie, hi there. What's your question?
How long does it take for the bird to heal, the full process?
Okay, well, Debbie wants to know about the bird, so let's just talk about the owl that we're looking at here, Debbie. This bird has got the bandage on. How long will this will it take to heal this owl?
Well, usually a fracture like this takes about 6 weeks to heal, and of course we'll remove that metal pin that we saw earlier, and then we'll remove this bandage, and the bird will still be in its hospital cage for a few days, and then Lori will take it out and see how well the bird can fly. And they do that in the hallway down here.
Okay, that's great. So about 6 weeks for that process, and then comes the rehabilitation. And we're going to show you that rehabilitation. But one of the other things Lori mentioned was the type of difference that things being done here at the Raptor Center has made a difference. One of those instances would be the peregrine falcon. So we're going to come back in a few minutes. We're going to talk about the peregrine falcon, and we're also going to show you a live surgical procedure right here from the Raptor Center. So take a look at our next set of questions, and we'll be right back with the peregrine and some surgery. again, and we are back in the treatment room where things continue. Yes, we're doing a live television broadcast right now from the University of Minnesota Raptor Center, but this is business as usual. We can only intrude so much, so another bird is being examined here over my shoulder, I guess. Well, wait a minute, they're doing some more with the snowy owl, but this is, like I said, this is a work day here, as every day is here at the Raptor Center. And speaking of those everyday work days, they do make a difference. And I mentioned the peregrine falcon a little while ago, because it wasn't that long ago that the peregrine falcon, the fastest bird of all, the fastest raptor on the face of the earth, was just about, well, wiped out, extinct, non-existent. There were going to be no more falcons in the wild, and that was because of, well, man's use of DDT. But through some intervention by folks like the Raptor Center, the Peregrine Fund, and other wildlife groups, this bird has made a remarkable comeback, and we have that story for you right now. So take a look at this as we tell you the story of the peregrine falcon. The name peregrine means wanderer, and the bird lives on every continent except Antarctica. The female, as in most birds of prey, is 1/3 larger than the male and lays 3 to 4 eggs each spring. DDT was supposed to kill only insects, but then the peregrines began to vanish. The cliffs on the Oregon coast are occupied by many birds, but not by falcons. They are gone from the Palisades on the Hudson River, from the Appalachians to the Rockies, and seriously affected in Canada, Scotland, England, and most of Europe. Dr. Jim Anderson of Colorado College tells why.
The reason is clearly DDT. Many of the small birds that peregrines eat have eaten contaminated insects. And the cumulative effect of this is that DDT raises in level in falcons and causes them to lay thin-shelled eggs. And it's not difficult to imagine that thin-shelled eggs don't hold up well on rocky ledges under an incubating mother falcon. Eggshell thinning is actually easy to see with the naked eye. Fortunately, DDT is declining in the eastern United States, and the release of captive bred birds will rebuild that population.
Dr. Tom Cade began a program to restore the peregrine at Cornell University's Laboratory of Ornithology.
We established the Peregrine Fund in 1970 to attempt to learn how to propagate peregrine falcons in captivity and to use the offspring from this captive stock for reintroduction into the wild.
The newly hatched falcons are small and helpless and are fed by hand. Now, an experiment using a puppet mother for feeding was completed, but found unnecessary for maintaining normal behavior. This is Scarlet, a peregrine who has made her home in civilization for several years, nesting on the U.S. Fidelity and Guarantee building in Baltimore. But Scarlet didn't have a mate until the Peregrine Fund introduced her to a captive-raised male who, of course, was named Rhett. Unfortunately, Scarlet's eggs were infertile, so the researchers replaced them with downy chicks. Feeding on the plentiful pigeons brought to them by Scarlet and Rhett, the young birds grew to maturity, while the entire process was comfortably documented by observation through special one-way glass windows. Now, falcons have also been introduced in Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, and many other locations. Now, in this nest, researchers have replaced the wild eggs with dummy eggs. And now, they are climbing to that nest with incubator-hatched young, which they will exchange for the dummy eggs. But the mother falcon is angered by their approach, and the closer they get, the more agitated she becomes. An angry falcon protecting her nest has been known to strike men violently. The climb ahead is more difficult, so the young birds are transferred from their carry box to a backpack. Now, the young birds are banded before placing them in the nest, and by looking closely as the mother flies by, the researchers have a chance to see whether or not she is wearing any identifying bands or markers. They continue to observe and later find that the falcon mother is caring for the new young, as one more step is completed in restoring the peregrine population. Well, no doubt about it. Yes, no doubt about it. That is one of the great success stories in the history of natural wildlife management and conservation. I mean, within less than maybe 20 years, there would have been no more peregrine falcons. Maybe even less than that. They don't even know for sure how close they really came, but it was frightfully close. But yet, they discovered the problem, and those eagles, the eagles. Well, they're like little bitty fast eagles. Okay, those those falcons. Now they like to live on cliffs, so why not put them in high-rise buildings in cities? I mean, kind of a neat idea, don't you think? It makes sense. They're right here in Minneapolis and in St. Paul, and they're probably in big, tall buildings where you live as well. So the next time you see one overhead, you can thank the folks at places like the Raptor Center for these birds still being in existence. Well, so far we've had a chance to show you birds coming in, being examined, birds being treated, x-rays perhaps, some procedures, but they also do surgery. And once again, they have a surgical operating room just like you would see at any hospital near where you live. So I'm going to move now from the treatment room and go into the surgical suite right here into the operating room, and I'm going to rejoin. I'll step right across here. Dr. Pat Reddig, who has a bird that, once again, I see the cone on the bird, and so that means he's asleep.
That's correct.
What procedure are you going to do?
Well, this is a young bald eagle that's recovering from a broken wing, but we've noticed that it's having some respiratory difficulties, and we're concerned that there might be an infection or some inflammation somewhere in its windpipe that's obstructing the airflow.
Okay, now while before you start to do that or even talk about that, I think we have a question. It's a Blake from Edina, and it's about the anesthesia, I believe. Blake, talk to us, please. And well, first of all, how you doing, Blake?
Good.
Good. Okay, now you have a question?
Yeah.
Okay, what is it?
What is the gas called that you give birds when you put them to sleep?
Blake wants to know, what is the gas called that you give the birds when you put them to sleep?
Okay, the name of the gas is isoflurane.
Is it like you or I might get if we go to the hospital?
It's exactly the same thing you'd get if you went to the hospital.
Exactly the same?
Yes, it is.
All right, did that answer your question, Blake? Oh, yeah, Blake's off the line. Blake was listening to us over his TV, that's right.
All right.
But thanks for the question, Blake. And once again, be ready to have more questions for us, because now we have what did you call it?
It's called isoflurane.
Isoflurane has been administered, and we're going to, well, this tube goes down the throat?
Right, this is what's called a fiber optic endoscope. And we just have a metal tube that has fiber optic units in it. There's a lens down here, and we have a small television camera that we're going to attach to the other end. You can see the images here. Okay. We'll attach it to the end of the scope like this, and then we'll come along and attach a fiber optic cable. All right. So we have a light source. You can see the light that comes out the end of this tube now. We'll just hook it up to the instrument. And we're going to feed this down the windpipe of the bird. We'll get all the way down into the lungs.
Maybe to give us some idea, I know you have an x-ray back there. Is that a bird like this?
Yes, in fact, it's the same bird. And you see this passageway that runs down the side of the bird's neck. This is actually the windpipe. And we're going to pass this instrument all the way down the windpipe, down to about this level, right above the heart, where the windpipe breaks into the two bronchi that actually enter the lungs themselves.
Okay, so we'll be able to see that. Now, that looks like a long tube. Would you mind laying that on the eagle? I'd like to see just how far down inside the bird you're going to go.
We need a long tube, because actually the neck of an eagle is a lot longer than it might look. But in fact, when we have this thing all the way down in the lungs, the tube will be down, the endoscope will be down at about this level right here.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm going to let you do that right now. And once again, this is like a long tube with a camera on the end of it. And you're going to be looking, by the way, for what?
Well, we're going to be looking for signs of inflammation or actually some kind of a growth that is actually obstructing the airway.
And what will that look like?
Probably look like a white piece of cauliflower or popcorn down there.
Okay, let's look for popcorn then.
Look for popcorn.
Okay.
We're going into the glottis of the bird right here. You can see the opening that it breathes through, and we'll just insert it right here. And now we're going down the tubular structure. You can see the rings there. Those are cartilage rings that actually hold the trachea open. even though she's anesthetized, she's reacting to this just a little bit. But we'll keep it in the center.
Okay, and that tube, that's the windpipe, and that red, that looks normal, huh?
That looks just fine. So far, so good. Yeah, actually. Well, let's see, just manipulate this a little bit. Okay, now all the way down. There. Now, if you see those two openings right there, that's where it actually splits into the two bronchi, and those membranes right in the middle are actually the bird's membrane voice box. That's where the vocalizations and the sound that the bird makes actually comes from. It's right there.
So as I understand, each of those two paths, one go to one lung and one goes to the other lung.
That's correct. And now we'll go right past one of those and go down actually into the lung of the bird.
This is inside the lung?
We are inside the lung of the bird at this point. And as you've noticed, everything looks pretty good there, doesn't it?
Yep, yep.
She's moving just a little bit, but see, we didn't find any popcorn here.
No, there's none of the white, like you said, cauliflower popcorn.
Right.
We're removing the...
We're going to pull the scope back out now, and since we didn't find anything, that's all we really need to do. And we're going to put the anesthetic cone back on the bird's head to re-anesthetize it and give it a little chance to recover from the insertion of this. But we'll bring her up in about 2 or 3 minutes, and she'll be just fine.
Well, the obvious question to me is now the effects just from this tube down the throat. How sore throat, sore throat for the bird?
Oh, just a very mild irritation, but by tomorrow morning it won't be of any note whatsoever.
Okay, wow, that's fascinating stuff. A live procedure right here. We have some more questions. In fact, we're going to answer your question about veterinarians and what it takes to become a veterinarian and do procedures like this in our next segment. And we'll answer that question and more as you take a look at them right now as we take a short break, look at these questions, and we'll be right back with Raptors Live. Okay, we are back here. I'm just kind of having some fun here with Mark, and we're back here with a falcon.
This is a peregrine falcon, just like you saw before on the video. This is that same kind of bird. This is a female peregrine falcon, as a matter of fact. Her name's Tofty because she came from Tofty, Minnesota. That's where we released her about 5-6 years ago. And what we wanted to do was talk a little bit. You've seen us carry the birds around. You've seen us do stuff with the birds. What we thought we should do is talk a little bit about how we take care of them in captivity. Birds like Tofty, the peregrine falcon, we use some really old falconry techniques. You're probably familiar with falconry from movies and things like that. It goes way back to the Middle Ages. The kings and queens used to do it. And they developed the techniques that we're still using today. We put these little leather bracelets that are around the bird's legs. You can see that they just hang there real loosely. And those are called the jesses, and that's what we hold on to the bird in case she jumps away. And that's just attached to a little swivel and a leash. And she wants to get in on the act as well. The other thing that we use that we haven't put on these birds is this piece of leather, and it's called a hood. And the hood goes on the bird if we want to keep her quiet or want to keep her from being real scared about things.
Okay. Now we want to talk too about in management. Of course, you have to feed the animals when they're here.
You have to feed the animals, and one of the first things you have to do is give them a place to stand, and those are called perches. You've seen the birds sitting on perches up to now, and this particular perch is a block perch that Tofty's sitting on, and I'll just tie her on right here. And Mary Beth has already brought some of her food for today, and each of the birds gets a special diet.
While he's tying the bird there and securing Tofty, what about the diet?
Well, we have special diets here for each of the birds here. And by the way, the birds that are tied on the perches here are special birds because they're education birds. These are birds that cannot be released back into the wild for some reason, whether it's a physical injury or they were raised in captivity.
Yeah, like the ones Lori mentioned
That's right.
downstairs.
That's
Great.
right. So they're fairly used to human activity here, so that's why we can stand so close to them.
Okay.
But we have in their food bowls in front of them. In the wild, peregrine falcons are bird eaters, so you would see food like pigeons, perhaps, or starlings. They would eat birds.
Uh-huh. All right, next up.
And the next up, we have a burrowing owl here. And Spiff is a burrowing owl that's imprinted to humans, so again, he can't be released. And they would eat a lot of small rodents and insects. And if you take a look in their bowl, you can see some, looks like beetles and some grubs and mice. You bet.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of little critters that run around the prairie that they can catch.
Like one mouse would last that bird how long? Would he more than one mouse in a day?
Oh, they'd probably eat a couple mice in a day if they're real active. Yep.
Okay. Now here we have a bigger owl right next door. I would imagine has a bigger appetite.
A bigger appetite is right. And in fact, this great horned owl, they eat in the wild animals as big as skunks. So you can see in Leanne's food bowl, we have a skunk represented here. And often many of our birds that come in smell like skunks because they've been hunting them.
You know, it's a magnificent bird, and of course, wouldn't you know it, he wants to take a look at you. He knows you better than to play to the camera. We got to work on the camera techniques here with our animal here. Now, I notice we also have an empty perch here because, well, that bird eats a lot, but there's birds that eat more.
There's birds that eat quite a bit more. In fact, Mark here has brought out a pail of fish that represents about 25 pounds.
25 pounds of fish. And all the food we should have to know is what we feed the bird in one day. We're going to show you how much this bird that's going to come up next would eat in 1 year. This is about 25 pounds of fish
per bucket. So we've got our studio audience, our youngsters here in the audience, bringing out buckets. Let me see if I can count them real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, go ahead and find your seats again, kids, after you put your buckets down. Well, I lost count here. Wait a minute. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Thank you very much. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I think 22 buckets.
22 buckets?
Is that right?
That's right. At 25 pounds, this is another math question for you, Gary.
Help me out with this, okay?
22 buckets, 25 pounds of fish is about 550 pounds of fish that this bird that we're going to see next eats in 1 year. What do you think that bird would be?
Well, what do you think it would be? Eagle, that's right.
Eagle, good guess.
That's right, good guess. Huh? It is, in fact, well, it looks like Othello again. Now, once again, it would eat, tell me again that number?
About 550 pounds of fish in 1 year are needed to feed a bald eagle.
Wow.
And, which is a lot of fish, as you can imagine. In addition to fish, they might eat carrion. That bird that we were examining before, we were talking about, it probably was eating something on the side of the road, maybe a deer that got hit by a car. They'll also feed on seagulls or ducks or things like that as well. But in 1 year, they can eat a lot of fish.
Boy, they sure can. You know, we have a lot of questions. In fact, we have some youngsters out there that we want to talk to, and I'm gonna let you handle those questions, okay, Mary Beth and Mark. And I'm gonna go back downstairs. So you take over with the questions, and I'll rejoin you downstairs.
Okay. Okay, Celeste from Alaska, you have a question for us.
Why do they put the band around their legs?
Why do we put the band around their leg? That's a really good question, and we're going to be showing you some of that later on. But basically, the band tells us where the bird came from, and if the bird is found again, we know where it was found. So it gives us information on the movement of the birds, and we'll show you later how we put those bands on.
And speaking of food too, you know, sometimes people wonder, how do birds get the kind of the roughage in their diet?
Yeah, they've got all this fur and all the feathers that these birds have. You wonder what happens to that if they keep that in their stomach.
Birds have to eat the entire animal, the bones, the fur, or the feathers, and the stuff that they can't digest, they actually compact into a little, what we call a pellet or a castings, and they cough these up or regurgitate them up. And I have in my hand here some pellets that came from a great horned owl. And you can actually take these pellets apart. Get a little close, you can kind of take a close look at these. You can take these pellets apart and actually see the bones and the teeth of all the food or the animals that they eat. In fact, some of you may have pellets in your classrooms that you're taking apart right now and looking at the contents of what the bird had for dinner. And scientists use these pellets to help study what kind of animals that they're eating in the wild. They can tell what kind of mouse it is or rabbit.
You know, we've been talking up to now about how we take care of our education birds here at the Raptor Center, But it wouldn't surprise you to know that there's different ways that we have to take care of the sick birds. And right now, Gary's downstairs with Lori Arndt, and we're going to show you how those birds downstairs get taken care of. Gary, can you hear us?
I can hear you very well, Mark, and I will be joining Lori because we have, in fact, moved back downstairs into the area where the birds are kept as they are in between treatments, in between rehabilitation sessions, and that type of activity, into an area here. In fact, here's Lori right now, into an area, well, you call it significantly enough, obviously, the patient room.
That's right. This is where the birds go when they're healing, when they have their bandages on.
Okay, let's have a look inside. Okay, we're moving inside here right now, and what do we have?
We have several birds here that we just looked at, actually. We have a few of them that were on the table, and we keep them in relatively small places so they don't injure themselves while they're healing.
So in this room, it's one bird to a cage, primarily so they don't hurt themselves, right?
Exactly, yep.
Okay, that's good. Now, this is just one of several patient rooms. We're going to move right next door, okay, into a room that is a little bit different, a bird that might be a little bit further along in the recovery process. We call this the flight room.
That's right. Once the birds have their bandages off, they come in here and they're able to move their own wings and do a little bit of their own physical therapy. Then once they're able to get on our high perch, we know it's ready to take them out and test fly them.
Okay, and you can see the birds in here right now. So it's kind of a series of steps before you can test fly them, right?
That's right. They graduate from one step to another.
Okay, well, we're going to continue with that schooling process to the next graduation level to see some birds actually involved in some test flights. And you're doing a great job. Thank you very much out there for asking us the questions. We have some more questions for you right now for you to discuss there in class. So take a look at the questions, and we'll be right back. Okay, back. And once again, I can't tell you how much we appreciate you asking us those questions. I hope you're having some chance to talk about those questions as you watch the program. And we're talking about flying right now. And one of the questions was about wingspan. Now, we have a bird here with Lori. It's an owl, as you can see. And we're going to fly this bird in a minute. And it has a wingspan, but certainly there are birds with larger wingspans. And before we fly the owl, let's check back with Mark, and we'll talk about wingspan.
The question was asked of us is how big is an eagle's wingspan? Well, this is a diagram. This is a cutout of an eagle's wingspan, and one of the things, it doesn't mean much to us, but if we compare it to ourselves, David here is going to show us how big his wingspan is. Stretch your wings out. There you go. Not nearly as big as an eagle. Okay, Amy, you're next. Let's see if you're as big as an eagle. Amy's not as, Amy's much shorter than an eagle. You're more of a peregrine falcon-sized little girl. So what you can do on this, you kids back in the classroom could take a tape measure and measure your own wingspan. This is about 6 feet. So you could see if you're as big as an eagle or not. So Gary, does that take care of your question? You want to show us how we fly birds?
It certainly does take care of it. 6 feet, that's an amazing wingspan. I had no idea, to tell you the truth, myself, just how big the eagle's wingspan was. But we are now back, not with an eagle, but with an owl. And we have come into a hallway. And, well, first of all, tell me about this owl.
This is a great horned owl that came in May with a broken wing. It was hit by a car, and we haven't test flown it yet. It's finally gotten up to the high perch in that flight room, so now it's time to see what its wings can do.
Okay, I'm going to let you move around because Lori's going to move around and put this owl on a perch. And we have a long hallway here, and there is another perch down at the other end. And what we want is that bird to do just that. Well, that's what may happen. We don't know with these birds what they're going to do. Let's see if it'll fly. Okay, it chooses to run right now. So Lori's going to walk down and gather the bird and put it on the perch down there. I'm going to move back from this perch a little bit, and hopefully it will fly, because that's what we're doing. It has graduated to the top perch in its flight room, and now Lori needs to see if it's, well, just how well it can fly here in this flight hallway. So she's putting the bird on the perch, and we'll see. This is the first time for this bird, so there's no telling. It may do nothing, or it may fly perfectly. Right now, it's choosing just to stay there. Here it comes, and it's going to fly. And
that's better.
Oh, it made it! All right, beautiful. As one of the techs here, let's go ahead and watch that in replay if we can, and we'll watch that slow motion replay of that bird flying on its second trip.
Wasn't too bad for that
down.
first flight.
All right. The first flight, of course, it didn't do too much at all, but that's the last flight. What did you see of that when you watched the slow-mo?
I saw that one wing wasn't quite extended all the way, and he did droop it when he landed. It doesn't have enough muscle yet to enable him to get in the air very well.
So it's going to need several more sessions in this hallway, obviously.
Oh, definitely, yes.
Okay, now we have another, it's the same kind of bird, but not the same owl.
That's right. This is another great horned owl that came in October, and it was hit by a car and had an eye injury.
Okay.
So I suspect that the bird will do better.
Okay, well, this is one that's further along in the graduation process, so let's put it on the perch. Once again, Lori will put the bird, and we'll see. This one should do. Yeah, there you go, no problem.
Wow, that's
okay.
beautiful.
It made it without a problem down to the other end, and all by itself comes back and even beyond expectations, as it flew right past the perch. I think it would be fair to say that bird is ready to well, let's take a look at the slow-mo instant replay, if we will. We have instant replay here, just like at a football game. And what do you see?
That's an absolutely beautiful flight. The wings are completely extended. Those feet are tucked up nice. Very graceful, very smooth. Bird looks great.
Okay, well, once again, we pretty much could tell that too, because it just soared down this hallway. So that bird wouldn't be ready for the next phase.
You bet.
And that is, can you believe this? They take the birds out into the park, nearby parks here, and fly them in the wild. But they do it, well, in a kind of a special way, just so they can control the birds. In fact, we have some videotape to give you some idea. And tell us what we're looking at, Lori.
Right here, we're putting on some jesses or leather straps on the legs so that we can control the bird when we take him outside and exercise him. We get the bird already in the treatment room so that when we go outside, we're ready to let him go and let him fly.
Okay, and those are the jesses that she is putting on. And so the next thing we'll have is the line. Now, this line is attached to that bracelet, ankle bracelet like you mentioned. And then what happens?
That's right. Then we let the bird go and encourage him to fly. Most often, doesn't take much encouragement at all.
Okay. Now, that cord, that bird didn't fly very high. Is it the cord weighing it down?
No, not really. The cord we use is very light. It's a parachute cord. This bird is working very, very hard. His wingtips are hitting the ground. Doesn't have enough muscle to keep him airborne.
Okay. I'm wondering now, can you see anything else in this particular bird? Just the low level tells you it needs more work?
Right. Every beat is such an effort. It's very difficult for him to flap his wings.
Okay, and of course, this is hard work.
It is. In fact, birds get very hot and very stressed, so we miss them when they're out there to kind of cool them off.
A little drink.
You bet.
Just like you and I might have if we went for a jog or something.
Oh, definitely, yes.
Okay, well, that bird is being cooled off. And of course, after a number of test flights like this, they do, well, watch this one, huh?
That's right. This bird is on fishing line, which is a little bit lighter line for the lighter birds. And as you can see, it's flying like it doesn't have any line at all. And in fact, like he did just there, he got a little bit of soaring in, which is just excellent. It means this bird is ready.
So, and I noticed too that the line on this bird appeared to be even smaller too.
Yes, definitely. The smaller birds do have a harder time with the heavier line, so we put them on this fishing line and they do great.
Okay, that's cool. All right, well, there you get some idea of the procedure, the steps, flying in the small room, flying in the hallway, and then flying out in the wild, and then hopefully a release. And that's what we want to show you next. But I just have to show you one other thing first. Remember our second owl that flew completely by the perch? Well, he's been watching the rest of the procedure. In fact, he's right over my head right now. I think we have a shot of him. That's him up on, he's actually standing on one of our lights here, one of our TV lights. So he's having a great time watching the exhibit, the show, I should say, making an exhibit of himself. I think he's ready to go to the wild.
I think so, too.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about birds being released back into the wild when we come back. And of course, we have more questions for you. So take a look at these, and we'll be right back with more Raptors Live.
Let's get the bird.
Over
Okay, we are back again. I had a chance to look at some questions. I've now come back into the main auditorium here at the Raptor Center, rejoined with Mark Martell, along with Lydia and Elijah, because we're going to talk about, well, when we release birds, where they're released, they don't always stay right there.
No, we don't want them to stay right there because we want them to go back into their natural habitat. And one of the things that birds do, of course, is they migrate. They in the fall, you see geese flying overhead. Well, raptors do the same thing, so they go other places. We're able to get some information back on them, and we know that some of the birds that we've released have been recovered many, many years later in other places. And so we thought we'd show you where some of these places are. The bald eagles, we've had one bald eagle that was recovered in Michigan, and Lydia's going to show us where Michigan is. Okay. There we go. Okay, perfect. Got that eagle flying. The other one was found in Kansas, which is right in the middle of the country.
Okay, right there.
Right there.
Now those eagles, that's not too much distance, is it?
That's not real far compared to how big the continent really is. But ospreys go much further. We had one osprey that was found in Costa Rica. Do you know where that is, Gary? Yeah, there you go.
Okay, Elijah does. That's good.
Elijah knows where the Costa Rica is. The other one was even farther. That was found in Colombia, if you can believe it. Where's Colombia? Down there. That's a long, long way to go. That's thousands and thousands of miles.
And we're looking at birds that were originally in Minnesota have now gone this distance.
That's right. They've gone all the way down here to Colombia or all the way down here to Costa Rica.
Did you have any idea that birds could go that far?
No.
Me either. I had no idea. And some birds I know go even farther. But I think we have a question. I think it's from Arizona. Do we have a question there? Hi, what's your name?
Marcela Navarro.
And what is your question?
How the mother eagles hatch their eggs?
How do the mother eagles hatch their eggs?
Well, eagles hatch their eggs just like all birds do. What they do is it's called incubation. They gently sit on the eggs and use their body to warm the egg up. And after about 34 days, in the case of eagles, the little baby eagle chick breaks its way out of the egg, and that's how they hatch their eggs.
Do the dads and moms share, or is it primarily one or the other?
Well, in eagles, both the dads and moms do the incubation.
Okay. Interesting stuff. Now, we talk about these birds that travel so far, and the reason we know how far these birds go or where they may have first started is because of, it's banding. So we're going to move over here. In fact, you can stay with us here, Lydia and Elijah. I'm going to have you come under the table here. We'll rejoin Lori and stuff because we want to talk about banding of birds. And that's what we're doing now. Is that right?
That's right. Some of you more eagle-eyed folks may have noticed that the bald eagle we were examining before had a band on its leg, and we also put bands on the legs. And this is what a band looks like. Gary, you might want to see this is what the little band looks like for a bird. Wow. You got some over there, Gary. You might be able to guess what that one is for.
Well, I bet that's an eagle, wouldn't you think, huh?
Yeah, that's
various
for an eagle.
sizes. That's kind of cool.
Okay, Lori's got which bird is this now? This is
the broadwing hawk that I was working on earlier that I gave the feathers to.
Oh, the ones you imped the feathers on.
Yeah.
And I bet we're not even going to be able to tell which ones it is.
Now, the information, is there lots and lots of numbers on there?
Well, each of these bands has a code on it, has a number on it that's assigned to that particular bird, just like our Social Security number is.
Okay.
So if the bird is found later, if somebody picks up the bird when it's injured, or if it's seen through a really high-powered telescope, you can read that band number, and we know that bird belonged to us. It gets reported back to a computer in Washington, D.C. Okay. So we just attach a band like this. You can see it doesn't hurt the bird. It just sits there, sort of like a bracelet does on your wrist, and the bird will be able to fly around with that band on it.
So, Elijah, if you found a bird that had a band on it, what would you do?
Probably tell the Raptor Center.
That's right. You could look at those numbers, tell the Raptor Center those numbers, and by doing that, you would find a way to help the Raptor Center, help the research, and help with the various projects going on here. That's just one way that you can help out there as you watch this broadcast. If you ever see a raptor or any bird, for that matter, with a band, you can notify the local wildlife authorities, and you can be contributing to the research going on. There are other things that you can do too, and we've joined with Mary Beth with some projects.
Yeah, we're working on some projects here that will help raptors, and some of the things we're working on are the cutting of silhouettes right here, where you can take and actually make a silhouette of a falcon, and we use these silhouettes to put on windows to keep birds from having collisions with windows. Many of our head trauma cases are birds that see
they don't see the glass and they just fly right into it. Okay.
So we put these up and they pay attention particularly to the hawk silhouettes.
Okay.
The other things that we're working on here are we're taking envelopes and we're cutting what we call those tail sheaths. I don't know if you saw those in the clinic downstairs.
That's right, those protect of the tail feathers. We saw that in the treatment room.
Right, and you can cut these envelopes to sizes, and we have a bald eagle size, a red-tailed hawk size, and even a kestrel size, and we use these to protect their feathers.
Okay.
And And then the other thing that we're working on as well is the making of some kestrel nest boxes. You know, these kestrels, they'll nest in urban areas as well, and you can put these right up in the city or in the rural places, but basically they nest, they're cavity nesters, so you can build these boxes and help give kestrels better areas to live.
Well, now many of you have materials or will have materials to make these tail sheaths. And what we would like you to do is we'd like you to make them, and we'd like you to send them to us right here at the Raptor Center. And we're going to put the address up on the screen because this is the address to send your tail sheaths. And believe me, they use them by the dozens here, and they will definitely be appreciated. It'll be a fun project for you. The Raptor Center, University of Minnesota, 1920 Fitch Avenue, St. Paul, Minnesota, 55108, or you can certainly call area code 612-624-4745 for more information. And once again, that is a way that you can contribute. Now, we talked about banding of birds, but there's one other thing that you sometimes put on birds that's, well, even better than a band?
Well, better than a band, we can actually follow a bird wherever it goes, whenever it goes, because we use these tiny little radio transmitters.
Okay, I'm going to hold that there real quick.
Okay.
That's a little, yeah, there's an antenna right there. Okay,
There's an
cool.
antenna right there.
Huh, and that is, what does this do?
What this does is it emits a signal that we can pick up on one of our special receivers, and that allows us to know exactly where the bird is. This radio would broadcast for about 2 miles, so I could tell when this bird was about 2 miles away where it was by picking it up on my receiver.
Okay, and it's got the straps, and it just kind of...
Right. What we do is it works just like a backpack. You've all used backpacks before. We just bring it up front. We just have the radio on the bird's back, and we just bring it up front.
Okay, while you're tying that on, I think we have another question from one of our youngsters out there watching. Yeah, who am I talking to? Oops, I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear that.
Peter Durham.
Hi, Peter, where are you calling from?
Omaha, Nebraska.
Omaha, okay, well, thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of it. What's your question, Peter?
Do eagles have any natural predators besides man? And if so, what?
He wants to know if eagles have any natural predators other than man, and if so, what would they be?
No, we don't really think eagles have natural predators. They're one of the largest birds in the world. They live up in high trees and nests, so there's really nothing that can get to them. So man is really the only thing that threatens eagles as far as predators go.
Okay. You know, we talked earlier about a veterinarian and stuff like that, and I know you're what would be called a field scientist?
Right, or a wildlife biologist,
okay,
sure.
And so you went to school for how long?
Well, I went to school for about 8 years to get this.
Okay, for about 8 years to arrive where you are now?
Yeah, that's right.
And then, Lori, you have a rehabilitation specialist?
Yes, I have a master's degree.
Okay, and so once again, you went to school?
For 6 years.
Okay, went to school for about 6 years. And I know that from talking to the folks at the Raptor Center, that it was about an 8-year program, 4 years as an undergraduate, and another 4 years of veterinary school to become an actual vet, and then you move on from there. I believe we got your question answered. Thank you very much, calling us from Omaha. Now, we should also point out that looking at the work that they are doing here and getting the birds banded, getting the birds with the radio packs, the release of the birds back into the wild is absolutely, well, it's one of the greatest things we can do. In fact, I'm going to just kind of turn around this way right here. That's good. Okay, thanks. Oh, we have an audience question. Okay, I was going to get to that thing. Did you have a question? Was there somebody here that had a question? I thought, oh, you did. Okay, thanks, Renee.
I was wondering, when you were working on the eagle, why did you put the towel over his face?
Why did we put the towel over his face? Okay, that was Dr. Rettig back down in the treatment room. Put a towel, I think, over the face.
We did the same thing up here when we were working.
Oh, no, you did it up here. That's right.
On the camera, but the audience did, and that's a really good question. The reason we put the towel over the eagle's head was to keep it from seeing all the activity going on around it, and it just calms it down. So it makes the bird much calmer if we cover up its head so it doesn't get scared.
Okay, good. That answer your question? Yeah, okay, good. We have another question here. This is Heather.
Hi, why don't they grow back their feathers instead of you putting feathers back on them?
Well, that's a good question. Laura, you were replacing feathers on that one bird. They don't grow back?
Now when they're broken, if the bird would molt them out, then they would grow back. But when he breaks one in the middle, then the bird would have to wait till he goes into another molt. And they only replace their feathers once a year. So we want to hurry up and get them out of here, so we give them new ones so they can go faster.
Kind of speed things up. Okay. Yeah. Now, they tell me we have a question from nearby Monticello, Minnesota. Hi, who am I talking to?
Case Cushman.
Hi, what's your question, Kate?
If raptors' bones are hollow, then how much calcium, if any, is needed to prevent their bones from shattering?
Whoa, now there's a technical question. Okay, Mark is over here. Mark, you're our calcium expert here.
Thank you. We don't know exactly how much calcium that raptors need for their bones, but we do know that when raptors are very, very young, if they're fed the wrong diet, that their bones won't get enough calcium, and the bones actually get very weak, and that's a disease we call rickets. And so even though we don't know the exact amount, we do know that if you find a baby bird on the ground, we don't want people taking them home and bringing them home and trying to take care of them, because it's real hard to give them the right diet, and one of the things that happens is they don't get enough calcium.
Okay, well, thank you very much for the question. Thank you for your questions. You've been terrific. You know, we have had a chance to see birds brought in for the first time, the eagle that they were working on. We've seen treatment. We've seen surgical procedures. We've seen rehabilitation of little flights, big flights out in the park. And, of course, we've talked about what happens when birds are released. And, yes, we had a chance to see that up close and personal ourselves not too long ago, because they release birds here all the time. And they have special releases in the fall and the spring of each year. And this past fall, they had a very special release, and it was a big deal, to say the least. Watch this.
If you haven't already guessed, this is what we call here in the States a turkey vulture. And a turkey vulture, along with other condors or vultures, are some of the few birds of prey, or birds in general, that can smell.
Yes, it was a fascinating day for everyone who attended the Raptor Center's fall bird release. It was a terrific opportunity for people to see a variety of raptors up close. But of course, the event was much more than just that. Oh yes, all these people had come to see birds being released back into the wild. And they gathered around the release site, anxiously waiting. And with their cameras ready, they were ready to capture forever some once-in-a-lifetime moments on film. And it wasn't long before the crowd got exactly what it came for. One of the first birds to be released was this great horned owl, which had spent 18 months in treatment. 3, 2, 1, go! Now here's a bird once near death because it was thought to have been hit by a car, and now, because of the Raptor Center, it's strong enough to be free again. This owl is a barred owl, named for the bars across the front of its chest. Now it almost met a tragic end as well. It suffered severe head trauma and shock. Its right eye was closed, and it had blood in its ear when a woman found it standing in the middle of a road.
It was a very dark road and late at night, and I saw an owl in the middle of the road just standing there. And I turned around and went up to it and realized it was still at least, moving. So I picked it up and put it in my car and drove all the way across the Twin Cities with it very nervously.
Yes, it's because of people like Stephanie Hansen who bring injured birds to the Raptor Center that great moments like this can happen. One can only imagine what it must feel like to know that you were a part of saving a beautiful bird's life.
It was wonderful. It was just wonderful. It was such a thrill. And
yes, a thrill indeed. Watching these wild birds being released back into their own world creates a feeling no words can really describe. And then it was my turn to put on the gloves because the Raptor Center was giving me the honor of releasing a beautiful eagle. Now, they had named it Shawnee, and it was spotted on a log near a lake in Wisconsin by John Stark and his wife Roxanne while riding on a pontoon boat.
The closer we got to it, it stepped off of the log rather than flying away. And we've been around eagles before, and when you get too close, they fly. So we noticed something was wrong.
Yes, something was wrong, all right. As Dr. Patrick Reddig, the director and founder of the Raptor Center, explains.
Wisconsin. She apparently had been shot and still had shotgun pellets in her wing, and the forearm, her right forearm, was broken.
Yeah. Okay, and then the treatment?
Treatment involved implanting stainless steel pins inside the bones to hold them in place while they healed, along with the management of the soft tissue wounds around the injury site.
Yes, the bird was definitely in trouble, but once again, the medical marvels at the Raptor Center saw to it that this eagle survived, and I got the thrill of setting her free.
Hey, here we go.
You did the right thing, and we appreciate that.
Bald eagles,
well,
back to the wild.
This bird had been shot.
This is
and,
impressive.
This
is a thrill.
Of the bones in the forearm. 2, 1, go!
All right, there he goes, headed for the Mississippi River. Thanks to the folks from the Raptor Center. Magnificent bald eagle back to the wild. Oh, yeah, no question about it. Just watching that videotape again as that bird soars over the trees brings back a memory, and the crowd went crazy. The oohs and ahs and the cheers and the applause were, made it for a great day. And it's just it gives you a good feeling to know that a creature that belongs in the wild is back where it should be, and that we as humans had a big part in making that happen. The humans that really made it happen are standing behind me. Just some of the staff here at the Raptor Center, people we've already had a chance to meet. So what I'd like to do is real quickly just let them say their name again, and they're each holding, someone that's a close personal friend.
Hi, my name is Barb, and this is a great horned owl, Leanne.
All right, Leanne. And once again, isn't it kind of neat that they give them the names? Back again with Mark and
this is Othello, the bald eagle.
Who eats about 500 pounds a year. As you remember that, 500 pounds?
Hi, my name is Tony, and this is a spectacled owl.
And he just made a little sound for us. Can you do that again? Yeah, well, that's okay. That's pretty good. Thanks, Tony. All right, next behind Tony here.
Mary Beth.
Mary Beth, okay. And this is an eagle, too.
This is a golden eagle, and her name is Andy.
Okay, Andy, once again, part of the permanent educational number of birds that are here on all the time. Dr. Reddick, of course. Hi
yes,
there.
Indeed. And this is Tofty, an adult female peregrine falcon.
Okay, and Tofty is boy, the eyes of that falcon, it's amazing. I don't know if we can see that or not. Yeah, that is something. She's great. Thanks, Dr. Reddick. Okay, and you are?
Hi, I'm Kathy, and this is Cass, a female kestrel.
Okay, once again, one of the smaller. It's interesting that the birds come in such great sizes of variety. Remember, the big eagle and the very small, delicate almost, kestrel. Hi.
Hi,
Lori?
I'm Lori, and this is Jamaica, the red-tailed hawk.
The red-tailed hawk. One of the more common birds, right? One of the more common raptors?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so you might find raptors very much like this red-tailed hawk near you. I'm going to have you step this way, Lori, okay? And oh my gosh, and you are?
I'm Jane, and this is Nero, the turkey vulture.
And Nero, I'm sorry, Nero is he's just not the most handsome animal, is he?
I think so.
You think so? Well, good. See, that's why Jane is so marvelous here at the Raptor Center, because they love the birds, even some that maybe are not the most photogenic. And he heard me talking about him, right? Huh? How about that? Hi.
Hi, my name is Jackie, and this is Casey, the male American kestrel.
Okay, once again, so tiny and delicate. Absolutely, absolutely beautiful.
My name is Ron, and this is Spiff, the burrowing owl.
Okay, and that's the little owl that was eating the mice and the bugs and eats about anything.
That's correct.
Okay, once again, very delicate and stuff. Fascinating, just the variety of raptors. And you are?
Amy Tyson, and this is Caleb, the barred owl.
Okay, thank you very much, Amy. That's we do appreciate it. And we should point out, Amy is a member of the Bell Museum who helped put this all together. We can't say thank you enough to the folks at the Bell Museum, the folks at the Raptor Center, the University of Minnesota Department of Veterinary Medicine. They have all played a big role. Come on, bring yourselves down a little bit closer. And thank you for joining us with Raptors Live. Maybe we'll see you again via satellite. Bye, everybody. Come on down, kids. You want to see the birds? You bet. That's it.